What Drives You is brought to you by Ziglar, your premier source for equipping life and leadership coaches. Visit Ziglar.com and let them inspire your true coaching performance.
Yeah.
Welcome to What Drives You. I'm Kevin Miller, your host and guide to help you master your inner drive so you can live a driven, inspired, and peaceful life that sees you driving further and enjoying the ride. In this episode, it's a special episode. I titled it, What Drives Your Death? Walking with my dad to the end of his mortal days. I'm going to tell a story about the, again, mortal death, the physical death of my dad. And it's a story that's happening right now. As I was crafting this, I was sitting out by his pool here at his Florida home. And I'm right now, for those of you watching the video, you'll see me in his studio, which I'll tell you about in just a moment. And he's been asleep about 30 feet away in my parents' bedroom in a hospice bed on morphine. This is not a direct testimony about and to my dad. That will come, though this does say a lot about him. This is sharing the present story and the experience. But before the story is the reason for the story. And the reason is you and me. I mean, we don't have a terminal illness diagnosis, I assume. If you do, seriously, please let me know. I'd love to talk. I've got questions. Email me at kmiller at kevinmiller.co. Assuming you don't, however, let's talk about it. Being given a life-ending diagnosis with a timeline is life-changing. It would be for anyone, of course. I'm experiencing this, walking with somebody through it for the first time. And what's profound to me is we all have a life-ending diagnosis. I mean, we're all going to die. We just live with the assumption it will be a long time in the future somewhere. So we live with an expectation of more time. And my question is, what if we're missing the point? What if we're missing the opportunity? What if the best thing to happen to us could be a life-ending diagnosis so we could see and live clearly? That's the show. I first want to say I'm, of course, not the first person to encounter the death of a loved one. I'm not the first to walk with someone as they die. It does, however, seem I'm one of the privileged few to walk with someone in a short-term diagnosis who decides not to fight it and just enters it with open, curious, candid arms. It's giving us all, my family, time to talk and, family and friends, goodness, time to talk and process and ponder and grieve and talk more and process more and ponder more and grieve more. And it's changing some paradigms for me. Testimony is, it is from all of us. This is my perspective. I mean, I'm slow at processing my thoughts and emotions. I'd be more prone to share some of this later, months after my dad has passed away. But one, I realize there's a benefit in sharing the journey while it's happening. And two, my dad's a fairly prominent guy, personality, and many of my listeners to this show, What Drives You, know it's happening. And I feel a little remiss not to address it sooner than later. So here's a brief story before I share some of the messages that are weighing on me. And there's 4 specific messages I really want to talk with you about. But here's a story to lead into it. On December 1st, 2023, I was in Las Vegas with my dad and my brother seeing U2 in concert in the big new Sphere. And, for those of you who watched the video, there, that's a t-shirt. So I was there. I got the U2 shirt. I'm wearing it for the podcast. So we went there. Oh my gosh, it was very impressive to me. It was a great time with my dad and my brother, a memorable spectacle of a performance and an experience from U2 and from the Sphere. So really neat. Dad was ailing a bit. From a recent bout, we thought it was a gallbladder issue, something that he'd recover from and bounce back from. He's done this before. My dad, for those of you who don't know, Dan Miller. He's the best-selling author of 48 Days to the Work and Life You Love. From a book standpoint, that thing sold about 2 million copies. He's a renowned business coach, life coach. And for those who listen to Dave Ramsey, the financial guru, Those guys have been buddies for about 30 years. We've been family friends. Dave, I babysat his kids. It's in my book. You read my book? My wife and I babysat his kids back when he was starting his business. He taught my one daughter to ski at his lake house. So we've got some history there. But Dave has been touting my dad, Dan Miller, in 48 Days to the Work You Love ever since he got on the radio. Matter of fact, he just flew down to see my dad a couple days ago. We all got to visit. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But my dad, Dan, 76 years old, and he's a young 76. He looks 15 years at least younger than his peers. He's actively running his business. He goes on his daily walks. He's live and spry. He's writing new books and literally looking at the next 20 years of his active life. So I flew back from Vegas, returned home to my family on December 3rd, which is just over a month ago. It was in time to celebrate my 53rd birthday on December 6th. On December 7th, my dad went to see his doctor to look at a gallbladder issue. They came back and said, yeah, he's got an inflamed gallbladder and he has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. That's already spread to his liver. They soon discovered it was also into his bones, which explained the hip pain he'd been experiencing for a couple months. And they bluntly told him, get his family together. So I received a call. My brother and I, my brother was back in California. I was in Colorado. We hopped planes within the next 24 hours and jumped out here to Florida. My sister Ashley was already here with her family. They live in the area. Dad was in the hospital at the time, but he was released. Then we had, of course, what you can expect, the doctor visits, the tests, everything then assured us that it was the worst case scenario as far as cancer goes. And it left room for 3 options. Number 1, launch some atomic attack to fight this thing, no holds barred. Try every idea and option in the book, from chemotherapy to flying to remote locations around the world for treatments of untold varieties. We have a very health and wellness focused family with alternative medicine. You guys know my functional medicine background. A lot of ways to address cancer, a lot of incredible success stories from miracles from the worst case scenario and on. So that was one option. Number 2, just pray for a miracle. Believe it's not going to happen. Pray for healing and go that route. We are a faith-based family. So that was number 2 option. Number 3, accept the diagnosis and get the most out of the days left. And while we did investigate chemotherapy and we discussed some alternative treatments pretty much from the initial diagnosis, Dad did not vote for a fight. That was really apparent from the get-go, even as it was questionable somewhat to us. It was very interesting now, even in hindsight. I mean, my dad brought us up to not take no for an answer. I mean, he's famous for stating there's not a problem, there's only an opportunity for a solution. Many of you guys know author and speaker Michael Hyatt, who was also down here with Dave Ramsey a couple of days ago. I've had Michael on the show 4 times, I think. And it was Michael's wife, Gail, who introduced my dad to the idea of looking at a problem and just asking, what does this make possible? What an optimistic and opportunity-laden view. That's a concept he so adopted that a lot of people credit him with that statement. What does this make possible? So was this him then rejecting those very virtues, just giving up? Well, of course it wasn't. We did, I will point out, option number 2 there, pray for a miracle. And until his last breath, we'll hold out some hope for that. My brother Jared actually coordinated a prayer group of healers from around the globe. That's literally what they do. And we held a prayer session with hope that his next test would show the cancer was gone and he was healed. And with his sizable audience, there have been untold hundreds, if not thousands of people praying for his healing. I mean, I have a personal faith in God. I believe in miracles. Thus far, taking my dad's cancer away has not happened. I can't explain why. It doesn't change my faith. I'll ask God about it someday. So with the cards on the table, and I think some internal aspect maybe of knowing, Dad just accepted his fate right there, in those days. And he decided to walk openly and candidly into the death of his physical body. There's lots to be discussed there. There's lots to be discussed on the spiritual front that is happening right now for all of us. And I'm going to save that for another show. There's going to be more shows on this. It's too profound for there not to be. I may have Arthur Brooks actually come back on, some other leaders in spirituality, and do a roundtable and talk about some of the spiritual aspects. Here, though, I'm going to give focus to some areas, some specific tangible areas for you to ponder along with me and possibly embrace. These won't be, again, the last things, and this won't be the culmination of them either. These are growing. But these are what's in my head, and my heart that I'm pondering, and I'm going to ponder them here with you. All right, you ready? Number one. Do you really need to say the hard things? At the end of life, you hear a lot about that. People who need to finalize something. Here's mom or dad or whoever on the spouse on the deathbed, and they need to get these hard things out. And to say these things and find some closure and maybe forgiveness and whatnot. Now, my gosh, this is such a big issue, and there are so many different experiences and perspectives that people have. So I am pondering. This is not some definitive statement from me. But I didn't have a perfect relationship with my dad. He's not a perfect guy. I'm not a perfect son. We're not perfect people. We didn't have a perfect friendship. There were things that I have had, probably held on to, some dissatisfactions, and I think he probably has as well. And yet here he is with this end of life diagnosis. And I even had some friends of mine say, "Hey, this is a time to get real, and talk about what really, what you need to get out, what you need to say," kind of thing. I had no desire to. Just sharing, for better or worse. I just didn't. I thought, why? Why? Now, it may help that I'm reading fervently a lot about attachment, not relational attachment so much, but attachment to things, to anything. I'm reading Anthony DeMello. I talk about him a lot. He's a deceased guy as well, but Anthony DeMello, he has a little book called The Way to Love, little bitty book about attachment. And I was looking at that and going, what am I so attached to that I might need from my dad, that I need closure from, that I need his affirmation on? What do I need? And I looked at that and thought, well, if I do, again, I'm really sensitive in sharing this, but for myself, at least, I thought, well, anything that I would need is something that I'm attached to, and I'm working to not be attached to things. And I'm hoping that is a healthy reality, that when I looked at this, I thought, I don't have something I need to get off my chest to my dad. What's he going to do about it at this point? What would he say? I'm sure he'd say, "Gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know," which is kind of on me for not talking about it a long time ago. If I have something I'm holding on to. So what am I attached to? What do I need? And why do I need it? That probably says more. So if you looked at that and realized, again, somebody close to you is dying, and oh my gosh, you need to say this. Why? And I'd say, well, then do it now if you really need it. But I'd also ask you to question why. Why do you need it? What are you attached to? What do they have that you so desperately need? And why do they have it? Never said it that way. Why do they have that thing that you need? Why can you not provide it for yourself? Depending on your faith, why can't God provide it for you? I mean, there's the other idea too and I thought too of, oh gosh, that's selfish for me to need anything, because this is about him and about his death. I don't even necessarily feel that. I mean, if he's going to die and be, gone physically from this earth, I'm the one that's left here. I'm left here with his wife, his kids, his grandkids. So if I need something desperately, then I think it's okay to go get that. But again, what do I need? What am I dependent on my dad for, or on anyone for, no matter who it would be, whether it was my best friend, my spouse, my kid, or my parent who is on that deathbed right now? What do they have that I need? Why do they have it? Well, that's an interesting way to say it. I hadn't thought about that before right now. And what responsibility does he have for me? I'm 53 years old. I know lots of people who haven't had their dads ever. I've got adopted kids who never knew a dad. Well, they know me now, obviously, but what is the responsibility? I'm curious, as you think about that and ponder that, for somebody close to you, if they were at their end, you know what? I'll put it this way. For those of you who have lost someone, close to you. Are there things you wish you'd said? I'd literally like to know. Tag me on social media along with this show. It's episode 1300. Ask a question, do the direct message thing, or put a comment, or email me. kmiller@kevinmiller.co. All right, number 2. So here he is. He has this life-ending diagnosis. And I'm thinking, all right, man, I literally said this. There were some late nights. And I said, all right, I want your best. I want you to give us and everybody your best. If you got to boil it all down, all right, all this wisdom you've been given and all this content that you've been given for 30 years, all your life to some degree. I mean, again, I'm in his studio. You guys see his books are in rows behind me, and the books of the great people that he has communed with and walked with. I'm thinking, give me your best, man. And ultimately, he kind of was like, I have been. I've spent my life every day. I'm trying to give my best. And it kind of, I don't want to say it shocked me. It kind of set me aback going, well, gosh, that makes sense. Even though I'm feeling like, okay, I'm an opportunistic guy. I'm like, okay, man, this is where the crap hits the fan, rubber hits the road. Give me your best. And he's kind of saying, well, I kind of have. I was almost let down initially, but then I thought, well, what a way to live. Do I want to end what if I got the life sentence right now? What would I all of a sudden be like, oh crap, I got to impart this. Well, why don't I impart it now? So I can end like he is. And I thought about, I'm a big music guy, and you look at the most prolific musicians of our day, or singers, Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift and Celine Dion or Bono, who I just saw in the U2 concert. If they got a life-ending sentence, man, you got 30 days. Would they be clamoring to say, oh crap, no, I got another song. I got to write this and sing this one. Ooh, I got to before I go. I kind of thinking that they go, I just been writing as fast as I can, as much as I want to for a long time. I'm good. It's pretty great. It's pretty peaceful. Have I been living that way? And folks, I'm not telling you that I have. I'm pondering these things. These are the things that and again, I'm still within it. I'm still here. Dad's on hospice and we're dealing with stuff every moment. I'm not even working that much. It's not a lot of time to reflect at the moment. So I'm just giving you what's just culminating, what's boiling up right now. But how interesting, does he have this last ditch music to sing? And he doesn't. How could I be living that now? How could I be doing my music, singing my music daily right now, imparting what I want, serving how I want, giving what I can right now? So that things came to an end, I'm not left holding the bag of going, oh, I didn't give this out yet. It's a lot to think about. Here's another one, number 3. How about regrets? I think he's actually said it, that no big regrets, but we got to unpack what regrets means, how people view that. I can't imagine any sane person looking back and saying, there is nothing I ever did that I regret doing. I think that would be psychotic. Of course, we've done things that we regret, said things we wish we hadn't, acted in ways we wish we hadn't, made decisions. I know my dad, my gosh, he's got a list of things. He'd say, oh, if I could go back, I wouldn't have done that. Even if it's redeemed, that's an interesting thing, because we'll do something and realize, oh my gosh, I got wisdom from that. Out of that came XYZ that was beautiful. I wouldn't have gotten if I hadn't had that problem or that challenge or that mistake or whatever it was. So there's redemption. I mean, that's part of my own faith in God and in life, that we can redeem the mistakes. But does that mean I go back and go, yeah, so I'm grateful. I'm actually going out today. I'm going to make a really bad decision, make a really bad mistake just so I can redeem it. It'll be beautiful. We don't live that way. So of course there's things that we go back. I feel, okay, I'll own it for myself. I have a hard time seeing not having regrets. Dan Pink, I had Daniel Pink on the show a year ago or so with his book, The Power of Regret. I had him on the show because I believe that regrets exist and they're powerful and they should have power. I've learned and am learning not to have continued guilt, especially not to have shame and to live in that, to give myself grace. As Tom Ziegler, my buddy, says, have the highest standards and the deepest grace. Most of my life, I've missed that second part, the deepest grace. So regrets, sure. But if we broaden it out to go, oh my gosh, do you just, wish you'd lived a different life and wish you had done this and done that? he's looking at it and going, man, not really. He says, I kind of did what I wanted to do. Even the bucket list, you look at the bucket list, which is a movie I appreciate. It's very entertaining and very sweet and funny and whatnot. The bucket list has Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson. And yet even that is interesting. It's, it's kind of off of the Morgan Freeman character of a guy who didn't do a lot of the things that he wanted to, and he got to do those. That's cool. My dad hasn't done that. He's gotten to do that. He's gone on cruises and he's traveled the world somewhat. And he's kind of done the things that he wanted to. And I'm looking at that and going, gosh, do I have this long list of things that I want to do? And now I say that brings into, issues of money. Somebody says, oh my gosh, I've just always wanted to go to Paris, and they literally have not had the money. And I have compassion for that. And I am not discounting that and chastising that and saying, well, if you've got that as a bucket list, you should do that now. And you've got 3 little kids and you're a single mom and you want to go to Paris, and you don't have the money. I'm not doing that. We got to have some grace for that, some compassion for that. Overall, though, to look at that and going, are there things that you will have regretted not doing? That's one of the deathbed regret issues, is we have more regrets for things we didn't do than what we did. So what is that list? And you may not be in a place to do it all right now, but have you at least written it out? We're at that time of the year, January 2024, of goals, resolutions, whatever they are. But what are those achievements? That's why I put a focus on achievement. What are some things you would like to do, experience, and achieve that are just meaningful to you? I would ask you to say why. Why? Is it just something you have on a list because you think you should? Like that, Paris. Everybody wants to go to Paris. I don't want to go to Paris. I have zero desire to go to Paris. I'd rather go for a run around the neighborhood right now. But find the thing. What is it that you want and why? And then put it out there. If it's a destination that you want to drive to, you'll never get there without writing down what the destination is, and then look at how could it happen? What would it take? And that gives you some possibility for making that happen. But, looking at regrets, of course, we have mistakes in our past that I have a perspective that we wish we might not have done. But overall, big picture, man, if you got the 30-day life sentence here, what would you go, oh crap, I haven't done X yet. Put it down. Don't be afraid, I would say. Be free to put it down. Not with shame, not with a bunch of guilt, but put it down and be honest with it. It's not your self-worth, but put it down. Write it down. So you've got a map, in essence, of some things that you would like to have done before you get that diagnosis, which could happen at any moment. Number 4, how would you live if you couldn't make things better? Friends, I wrote this morning before I decided to even do this podcast. I wrote this and I shared a little bit of it with my family. So I want you to think about something. So here's my dad. He's rapidly dying from cancer. It's overtaken his body. He's on more and more pain meds to take care of the pain, which dulls his senses, which is a bummer, but you don't want the pain either. And it dawned on me last night as we were sitting around his bed, sang some songs to him. There's no expectation of improvement. I have no file for that, as my therapist would say. I have no file for that. There's no expectation for improvement. I've never allowed that in my life. I don't think my dad has allowed that before. Of course, there's an opportunity for a solution. What does this make possible? He's looking now and going, well, there's, a miracle can happen, but there's no expectation of improvement. And it just weighed on me. I thought about it last night, talked about it, wrote about it. I did this morning. Here I am doing it again. No expectation of improvement. We look at everything with the expectation of improvement or bettering it. That's not bad. I mean, I'm still going to do that, but I'm curious, what would my psyche, what would my mental state be like if I didn't look at everything thinking I could and maybe should improve it? Now, I'm not one to just accept things, to settle. We talk about that, settle, as like it's a dirty word. But I do look at some things now and go, well, should I? I've thought about it in past year or so at my home. I have a nice home in my standards. It's a big home. It's a custom home. It's not fancy. It's a very utilitarian home with a zillion kids in it. But it's up in the national forest. It's way up in the mountains. It's higher than a lot of people would like. They're having a blizzard right now. It's not perfect. And yet I found myself getting itchy thinking I should better it. Should we look at another home or a second home or whatever? And it finally dawned on me as I looked around and thought, what if I died here? Is that so bad? I have a custom home up in a national forest. I go run every day and overlook all these 14,000-foot peaks. I'm by a high mountain lake. Of course, I'm listing out my stuff, and you may look at where you're at and you don't like it. And that's relevant. That's relevant. If you look at it and go, no, this is not okay. I hear you. I'm not looking at everything in my life and saying everything is okay. There are some things in my life that need to get better, and they literally do. Yet I'm going to veer on this other side for a moment. What if I can't? What if I can't? What if that is not my sole focus, is to get up and better and improve everything? Can I do that? Back to Anthony DeMello and attachment. Can I do that because I want to? Because I think it would help me, help other people. It would be nice. It's a desire, sure. But can I also let go of it and go, man, that is not the most important thing of life? Improving that thing or bettering that thing, is that more important than just being present? Looking out the window or being outside and being grateful. Looking in the mirror and being grateful. Looking at my family and being grateful. Looking at what I have and stepping back and go, man, is the point of life to just better things and improve things? Does that, here's the kicker for me, does that distract me from being here and being now and being happy and being at peace? Honestly, if I got some mandate that says, Kevin, you cannot change or improve any circumstantial thing in your life for the next ever or year or month or whatever, you can't. Okay, you got to boycott that. You are banned from bettering, improving. You just have to be with yourself. If you want to better something inside of you. Well, that's different. That's a different perspective. That's not how I generally get out of bed in the morning. I'm thinking about how I can influence and affect my external world, the things in my life, how I live, where I live, the people in my life, how I can better that. Again, I'm not negating that. I have that desire. I want to be better. I want to grow and improve. I want to change some environmental things in my life, some of the circumstantial things. There are some possessions even that I desire. I think I do want a home near the ocean at some point, but am I attached to it? Can I be happy without that? And is my life, should it be devoted lock, stock, and barrel from the get-go of my day to those things? And are they distracting me from being here and being now and having joy and having peace in my moment? Again, folks, I'm pondering these things. I'm going to stop there. There's a big subject out of all this in regards to the messages we tell ourselves. You know what? I'll give you this just as a teaser. My dad, actually, I said I would say this, didn't I? So yesterday, day before, a couple days ago, Dave Ramsey, who a lot of you guys know, very famous guy with finances. If you don't know him, he has his own airplane, and he flew down. He told my dad, "Who do you want there? Who do you want there for a last visit?" And my dad picked out some people, a handful of people, and Dave flew him down. Michael Hyatt was one of them. So Dave Ramsey and his wife Sharon, who have been dear friends of my family or my parents forever, my family, but my parents, Michael and Gail Hyatt, who have as well, and some other folks. And they came down and sat around Dad and just asked him, what's happening? What you thinking? And Dad, I'm going to say, held court. He got to sit there and be a sage to these folks as he's sitting with this life-ending diagnosis. And he repeated a lot of phrases and a lot of messages that he has for years. And it reminded me of another guy who I experienced doing that, Zig Ziglar. I don't remember the year, 2010 maybe. It was just less than 2 years before Zig passed away that I was with him, got to spend a day. He had a cognitive impairment from an injury, a fall, and would repeat himself. And he repeated those messages that he is famous for, that he is known for. What are the messages that are going around in our heads that we're telling ourselves and telling others that would come back at the end, the paramount, the climax? So that's a bigger show. That's significant, and there's a lot to talk through. I'll come back to that in another special episode like this. It'd be great to hear from you. Again, you can email me, kmiller@kevinmiller.co. And if you know my dad and have not been made aware, you can go to his tribute page. It's pretty significant. Muriel, MURIAL.life/Dan-Miller. Murial, MURIAL.life/Dan-Miller. There's a significant amount of people who've left him they call it a love kit, but it's just a testimony. Dan, this is what you meant to me. This is what I got from you. So if you'd like to, please go there. I'm seeing them as well. So is my whole family. It is as much of a gift to us as a family as it is to my dad, maybe even more. It's something that we will retain forever, like a book of testimonies to Dad, to Papa, as his grandkids call him. Would be a gift if you wanted to go there as well. Well, friends, thank you for walking with me as I ponder these things. I will be pondering them more. I will be talking about them more. There are some of these messages that I feel are going to be part of the legacy of my dad's passing on from this earth that are things I want to retain and communicate long haul. So I'll be coming back to them. Love to hear your thoughts on them. Again, if you do, email me, kmiller@kevinmiller.co. Folks, if you appreciate the podcast, want to let others know, please leave us a rating or review. Actually, if you appreciate the podcast, here's one on death. Share it with some people. It's obviously a gift to me. Our business downloads, our reach increases if you let people know about the show, What Drives You podcast, but leave us a rating on Spotify or a rating or review on Apple Podcast. You can subscribe on YouTube or any social media at kevinmiller.co, and you can see these videos. More and more of you guys are doing that as well. If you want to learn to master your own inner drive, see what's driving you, see what's driving you as you head towards death, a physical death. Get my book, What Drives You, on Amazon. Until next time, stay driven.
Yeah.